is 2014 the year of PR? Science. No, actually, here's some data for you. As it turns out, when reporters and consumers, and this is the same for B2B and B2C, as well as nonprofits, that when it comes down to what type of content actually moves the needle, makes people buy into a company's idea and products, services, or gets them to believe something that the company wants them to believe. When it comes down to the type of content that converts the highest, editorial coverage beats everything. It beats branded content, it beats viral content, it beats company-created content, which is actually branded content. So who generates editorial coverage? PR people, exactly. So what you have is you have 67% of consumers trust editorial content when they're looking for information to make a decision about a company. But what's really interesting is that that number jumps to 84% when that editorial coverage is shared by a third party. This is huge. Now, this is obviously word of mouth marketing, right? But what you see here is that with editorial coverage, PR's work, when you amplify the results that you get, and you get people to share your content out, what you're actually doing is you're moving people through your marketing and sales funnel much faster. And then, of course, if you're on the B2C side, coverage who's shared out by consumers actually end up, people spend more money. So what you really want to do in the PR field is obviously continue to generate editorial coverage and then work to get people to share it out for you, but we're going to talk about how to do that. More statistics. This is actually something from Nielsen and Empowered. And what this shows you is this is actually a direct comparison between expert content, editorial content, user reviews, and branded content. And as you can see, when it comes to purchase consideration, brand affinity, or even awareness of a brand, again, editorial coverage trumps everything. And I'm going to keep saying this. Who creates editorial coverage? You guys. Not your marketing team, you. But humans have really changed. A lot of changes have happened, both because of technology and because of the mobile phone. This is the slide that shows you how old I am. When I first started working at Business Wire in '94, it took 7 touches to make a sale. So I could call Fern and say, Fern, I want to talk to you about Business Wire. And Fern and I would meet. She might call Scott and say, is Business Wire legitimate? And he would say yes. And then all of a sudden, she would try us out. Well, that's not the same now. In 2014, with millennials making up over 25% of the marketplace, the decision process has changed. A majority of research is about a company when somebody's looking to make a decision about purchase. A lot of that research is now being done online with no interaction from the company. And what's happened is now it's over 20 touch points to make a sale. That's a lot of touch points. The amazing thing is, who's generating the majority of these touch points? PR. Why? Because press releases and the work PR people do are action-oriented documents. They jumpstart conversations. They jumpstart action. They jumpstart sharing. And then, of course, if you want to really increase your PR efforts, add it with word of mouth, and what you get is the highest conversion rate possible. Again, PR makes the majority of the touch points, and then word of mouth helps that impact. So, science. I love science. I love data, right? So what do we know about data? One of the problems that PR people have today is that PR people still think in text. If you have not noticed from my slides, I'm a textual human being. How can you tell? Look at my idea of a photo. They were like, Serena, your deck is terrible. You have to put a photo in it. Okay. I am a fully textual person. I learned my text. I love text. I love me some words. But 63% of the world are visual kinetic learners. I am a minority. When you're writing text-only press releases, you're hitting me, a minority of the world. 63% of the world are visual people. So when you're writing for PR, you have to start now thinking in visuals. Media outlets are moving that way, social networks are moving that way, and PR has to move that way. Why? Because I love these stats. Humans process visuals 60,000 times faster than text. Again, humans are visual creatures. We're born understanding visuals. We're not born understanding text. In addition, visuals are universal. Think about the pink slime incident. What made more impact to you, that visual pink slime or the textual description? It's the visual everyone sticks with. But when you think about multimedia, you have to think beyond photos. You've got to start thinking about video. Why? Because video, this is a great statistic. A minute of video is worth 1.8 million words. Could you imagine your bill for that press release? A 1.8 million word press release? Rather than create huge textual press releases, you should be creating less text and more visuals to tell your story. Why? Because the world is visual. If 6 billion hours of video are being watched on YouTube and you are not creating video, you're missing a massive consumer human being shift in the way they consume content. 33% of all searches on YouTube are for news. That's a huge amount of searching being done for news. It's because people are cutting the cord. They're no longer signing up for cable. I think I'm the last person in the world who actually admits to watching TV all the time. But what's happening is as people are cutting the cord with cable, they're turning to get their news online. If they're turning to get their news online and you're not providing it in a video format, you're missing your audience. Also, look at this. 8 billion photos are uploaded every day. That's the other thing your press release is up against. It's up against the selfie, right? When you write a press release and you're thinking to yourself, who is going to matter? Who cares? Ask yourself if that press release is bigger and more important to your user than a photo of himself. You've got to be thinking about how to make your news that relevant. And that's where multimedia will be a huge help. And then, of course, for those who are still worrying about SEO, and I'll talk about that next, multimedia does have quite a bit of its own natural SEO. If you're trying to drive traffic to your website, getting search results, higher search results is part of that, and video and multimedia will be done for you, or at least help you meet your goals. And then, my beautiful visual, we did some research on our site, and we found that releases with videos, releases with photographs, get 3 times the engagement as text-only press releases. So if you have a press release, if you created a piece of content, if you've paid money to launch a program, and you're distributing it with a text-only release, you're not really giving it the impact and the value. You're not giving it the chance to survive. You've got to start including assets. See? Another image. It's all words. This is actually one of the things that I do talk to clients a lot about is where they can find visuals. Where do you start creating this multimedia content? Because we do come from a pretty textual world. So one of the things you can start doing is just do an asset audit. If you're a PR agency, this is a line item. You could actually offer this and sell this to customers. If you're within a company, it's a really great program to initiate. And what you do is you just work with the company, work with your own staff to pull together all of the assets that you have available. Go to your C-suite and ask for PowerPoint presentations. Go to your sales team and ask for video. Go into marketing and see what you have. And what you're going to find out is you probably already have a lot of multimedia. You probably have all this content already in your company and you just don't know it. The other thing it will do is it's going to provide you with a roadmap of the content you need to create. And I'm going to talk about why this content's valuable a little bit later, but I'll tell you my favorite story. So as you can see up here, we have FAQs. So one of the best places to go and to create visual content is just to start with your FAQs. The biggest problem a lot of people have when they work within a company is they assume everybody knows what that company is and does, because they know what it does. When in reality, understanding and demystifying your company is one of the best things you can do to help people come into your sales funnel. So I was talking to McAfee in San Francisco, and we were talking about this slide, and they said, when we started creating video content, we started with our FAQs. And there was one FAQ, one video, that every time somebody watched it, they knew people were in their marketing funnel. So first I was dying. I was like, what's that video? What is it? What was it? How to pronounce the company name. People thought it was McAfee. And they knew the minute that they just did McAfee that those people were inside the funnel, because they were interested enough about the company to want to know how to pronounce it. Now, how simple is that? How easy was that video to create? It's a 3-second video. It's the shortest video ever. But this is where we have to be thinking. So if you don't have visual content, including your press releases, if you don't have visual content to help people interested in learning about your company and buying from you, start with an asset audit. Look and see what you already have, and from there, look to see what you can create from textual, that's already in textual content to video content, or what's missing and you can create. Okay, this is my big favorite slide. How many of you guys are familiar with Google Hummingbird? Or how many of you guys have noticed that in the last year, you're not seeing as many copies of your press release in search results? So that was a big change that Google made last year. Up until last year, for the 5 years previous to last year, you could use a wire service, issue a press release, and it would go to the top of search. 15 copies would go to the top of search. Well, that was really great for search engine optimization people, because going to the top of search is really expensive. And this was a super cheap way to get to the top of search. But what happened is it ruined search results for everybody. People started hating. If I was trying to go and find Business Wire, I would get copies of press releases. I wouldn't get Business Wire's website. So Google was losing search traffic. So what Google did is they made a massive, massive update. And what they did is they basically dinged all of the SEO companies that were using wire services to issue releases just to get to search. They cleaned up search results, and then they started creating search results that showcase all of your owned marketing channels. So what happens now is when I search for Business Wire, is I get my company, I get all of our owned marketing channels, and now I get the knowledge graph. And what this is this is information being pulled in by Wikipedia, and this is Google's way of creating information about Business Wire. It's a visual representation. You notice that their visual is all text? I love Google. They're my people. But what this is now. So when you go back to your office, one thing you need to do is do a search and see if you've got a knowledge graph coming up. If your company doesn't have a knowledge graph, you need to make sure you're in Wikipedia, and you need to make sure you have a Google Plus profile completely filled out. Google Plus, we don't know if that social network is going to stick around or not. But the one thing you must do for both yourself and your company is fill out a Google Plus profile. Google Plus profiles, they used to be called Google Profiles. Those are Google Plus, Google's using these profiles as basically yellow pages or white pages of trust. If you issue a press release and you're the contact on that press release and you don't have a Google Profiles filled out, Google will not know where to attribute this to. If you're the contact on a press release and you have a Google Profile filled out, Google will know who you are, it'll know that you're reputable, and it will give it higher search results. So if you're personally trying to create your personal brand or trying to elevate your company brand, the Google Plus profile is absolutely the thing you need to fill out. And fill it out completely. It's the single best thing you can do for search.
In order to get the knowledge graph, you need both the Wikipedia entry and the Google Plus profile?
Yes. Yeah, they're pulling everything in from Wikipedia. And if you have a Google Plus entry, and you can create a Wikipedia entry for yourself, just make sure you keep it highly factual and you utilize links to written, published articles.
So the Google Plus profile can be done on the company itself and individually?
Yes, do it for both. If you haven't done it for your company yet or your personal self yet, and you have a YouTube channel set up, be sure to use the same email address as your YouTube channel. If you do not, you'll never be able to connect the two. Google doesn't allow you to go back and fix that. That's the trick. Okay. Anybody?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, why would Google think that people on Google Plus are more reputable than people who are not on Google Plus?
Because what Google's saying is that you're taking, it has actually nothing to do with Google Plus itself. This used to be Google Profile, and they just merged the two tools.
Right.
What they're doing is Google saying, if you're taking the time to fill this out and tell us you're reputable, we're going to believe you and we're going to trust you. If you don't take the time, then you're just one of many, many people on the web, and we don't know who you are. So it's like a filing cabinet. It's your way of creating a file for yourself. It's a great question. Is it also Google forcing you to use Google Plus? Of course. It doesn't mean you have to use Google Plus in order to get the benefits, but you definitely have to have the profile come up. In addition, there's been some huge platform changes that I want to tell you guys about that are really perfect for PR people. The first one is LinkedIn. How many of you guys have received an email from LinkedIn in the last year that says, congratulations, you've been invited to publish? Have you tried it yet?
No.
So this is very interesting. Believe it or not, the program is called, I did not name it, LinkedIn's long-form content blogging service. Right? Talk about terrible SEO. The long-form content blogging service. Go to LinkedIn, and if your update box has a paperclip and a pencil, that means you have access to the system. What it is LinkedIn is now allowing and asking you to publish full-blown blog posts with images, full blog posts, into the LinkedIn publishing system. Now, why would you do that? So I'm going to tell you a case study about Business Wire. I actually did this. So I took a blog post, how to calculate the ROI of a press release, and I put it on the Business Wire blog. I took that exact same blog post and I put it in LinkedIn. So on the Business Wire blog, I got about 1,000 views total. I'm pretty excited about that. I was strutting around for a day or two. But the problem with that is that it's my blog. I own that audience. It's my walled garden. It's my blog, right? When I put it in LinkedIn, 9,000 views. What's the difference? Their walled garden. I already have these guys. They're my fans. It's my blog. Why would I not put it here? So when you're thinking about platforms to look at for 2015, you really have to look at LinkedIn. Not only do they have a personal publishing system where you can now promote yourself and your companies. By the way, this system is tied to individuals, not to companies. But what you can do, so what this has done is you need to do a couple things. If you're responsible for your social media internal policy, you need to make an update. Because you can't tell people that they can't use the system, right? Anybody can use it. But so what you need to do is make sure your policy is updated to talk about what they can or cannot use or discuss on this platform. But the other thing you can do is work with thought leaders within your company for them to create content that they can publish on their system. When Microsoft did its first interview outside of the Microsoft system, when they did their first external interview with their new CEO, what platform did they pick to do it on? LinkedIn. They didn't go to CNBC. They didn't go to CNN. They went to LinkedIn. Why? Because they reached more people. They reached their own target audience. And because media outlets picked up the LinkedIn article, where they wouldn't have picked it up previously if they had done an interview with one publication. Now, why is that important to Microsoft? They went directly into LinkedIn's walled garden, the largest professional database in the world, and they're publishing there. So you really want to take advantage of the LinkedIn long-form content blogging service. If you don't have the paperclip and pencil, just Google that name and a sign-up sheet comes up and you just put your name in it and you'll get an invite.
Is that a fee-based service, anything that is providing for?
Wait, can you say that again?
Is it a fee-based service?
No, it's completely free.
Okay.
You should know that the first post you do, LinkedIn is going to give you special juice. It's going to give you additional visibility. So you want to come out of the gate really strong. In addition, you want to make sure that your posts are really good. Remember, this is your professional face. This is not the place to do casual updates or fun photo blog. You want to make sure that your blog post is really strong. But it will give you a lot of juice and a lot of visibility. It's a terrific thought leadership platform. Any other questions? Perfect, so let's Facebook. How many of you guys are managing Facebook? Okay, how many of you guys put budgets in for 2015 for Facebook? Facebook, as of 2015, is pay-for-play only. Do not expect any natural or organic true reach as of 2015. You can Google this, they've said it. There are 3 ways, though, that you can really increase visibilities within Facebook. One is understanding that Facebook parses content by type. So remember how I'm all text, no video, no visuals? I don't get any video on my Facebook wall. Now my sister, some of you guys know my sister's a very big UX designer in LA. We're a year apart in age. She's completely visual. She hates text. She thinks text is aggressive. She likes visuals. Her Facebook wall, all video. So one of the things you can do to increase the reach of your audience, if you have 100 Facebook fans, you actually don't know how many of them are visual learners and how many of them are textual learners. So you should test. You should do some tests on your Facebook page. Test video, test text with a link, and photo with a link. And test for a few weeks, or maybe even a month. And what you'll be able to do is go in and see the number of impressions each update has, and whichever one has the most impressions, that's the style of your audience. So if you've been publishing text-only updates or text and photos, and not getting a lot of response, it may be because your audience is video-based. Now, one thing about video and social. Video and social does not work in the morning. PBS did a study and found that it actually works much better later in the day. In the morning, people want to be as smart as they possibly can, as fast as they can. So very smart headlines work very well in the morning with social. Video a little bit later in the day. Now the other things you can do, and these are pay-for-play features with Facebook, is you can actually do updates by geography, and by the way, LinkedIn allows this as well with company page, on your company page, by geography and by demographic. How many of you guys have a wide range audience, where your audience might be 25-year-olds or 45-year-olds, right? But how many of us write in only one voice? Right? I write in only one voice. I don't write for 25-year-olds and then write another update saying the same thing for 45-year-olds. I don't think like that. But we should be thinking like that. People want highly personalized, customized information, and most brands are writing in one voice. Split your voice up. Think about your audience, and then do demographic-based updates. I'll give you a great example. Amazon launched the Kindle Fire, and they did a press release, and then they did a press release of 14 tweets. It got a lot of press. So we were like, why did you do a press release of 14 tweets? And they said, because the Kindle Fire has 14 distinct audiences, and each audience has something different that they like. So for seniors, they promoted the Mayday button, the help on demand. For techies, they promoted the battery life. Take that and do the same thing with your Facebook updates. When you do a product launch, think about what is the one relevant item of this product for each particular type of audience, and then do Facebook updates just like that. You can also do the same thing based on geography. Huge storms are hitting the East Coast and Northern California today. Why not do an update when you get back to San Francisco users and say, hey guys, keep dry? Okay, maybe not, but you know what I'm saying. You can pick and choose. Customizing your updates, personalizing your updates as granularly as possible will always get you higher impact. When you're sharing out coverage across Facebook, position each time you share that piece of coverage out, remember to write it for each particular audience. What is going to activate me as a 20-year-old? What would activate me at 20 is not going to activate me at 40. So don't just use one update. You have a really good opportunity with Facebook to do these type of updates. You'll get a much higher impact. But the other thing you really need to do is go back and get a budget, because Facebook is definitely not free next year. Twitter, the big thing with Twitter is you can add images. They are working on GIF files and video. But how many of you guys have uploaded images to Twitter, and then when it actually tweets out, it's a link and the images don't show? Drives me bananas. When that happens, what Twitter is saying is that they don't trust the platform you're uploading from. So I have actually found that I'll upload my images from my phone. And when I do it from my phone, they appear. So if you have a problem with it appearing, try doing your tweets from your phone. But you really should be taking advantage of these 4 images. Think of these 4 images as an opportunity to tell your story from start to finish. For example, if you're launching a book, maybe the first image is the brainstorm image, the second image is manuscripts everywhere, third image is the proof, and the fourth image is the final book. But if you can tell your story with imagery through Twitter, you're going to get a much higher engagement. Plus, people will understand what you're trying to say, and you get more retweets. We already talked a little bit about Google+. Even Google+ isn't sure where Google+ is going. They leak a lot of stories about how bad it is, and yet they continue to put weight on participation. If your audience is technical or you're trying to reach marketers, Google Plus is amazing for you. There are huge, huge communities building on Google Plus. Copyblog or other marketing companies are actually moving off Facebook completely. Copyblog are shut down their Facebook page. Yeah?
I have a question about Twitter.
Sure.
My name is Tiffany, and my question is, for Twitter, when you're telling your story, is it better to use more like words, or like when you're limited to 140 characters, and that gets even smaller if you use a picture?
Yes.
Should you use it in the text? Should you
Must have
words
image.
or hashtags?
If you had a choice between text, you want to do both. You want text, you want to utilize a hashtag that's relevant. You can use hashtag.org to see which one is relevant. It's hashtags.org. But you want to have hashtags, you want to have images, and you want to have a tweet. That's it. I mean, those are the ones. And then your tweet, you want your tweet to be educational. Remember, social networks are aspirational networks. What I put on social is what I want you guys to think of me, right? And I don't put my normal stuff, I put smart stuff. You know what I mean? I don't put that it took me 3 tries to get out of bed this morning. I'm up and early. The day has started. It's aspirational networks. So what people are doing on social networks is they're trying to appear smarter. They're trying to appear more clever. They're trying to appear more helpful. So the more clever, more helpful, more smarter, because these are all real words, your updates can be, the faster they will travel. That's why statistics travel incredibly well on social. 67% of people trust this 100% of the time. You know, if you put stats in your update with your imagery, you'll get a lot more action on Twitter. Just keep in mind that people will only share it if it makes them look smarter, funnier, more interesting. So if your tweet is not one of those things, it's just not going to get shared. And we'll talk about Pinterest. Oh, wait till you see about Pinterest. But really quickly, with Google Plus, again, make sure the one thing you want to do on Google Plus is you want to use hashtags. You want to use the ability to email your circles. Don't forget that Google Plus, once you've added the people into your circles, when you do an update, it gives you a button that says email the people in your circles this news. That's blast emailing. You can put great people, you can put all of your target clients in your circles and have email them your updates. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And then you also want to make sure you use images. They give a huge space for imagery. Also remember that Google Plus is global. That's another reason why images get such visibility on Google, is because they know a lot of people may not be able to read your text. Okay, so this is my favorite. How many of you guys are using Pinterest? Yes. How many of you are using Pinterest for work? Perfect. Perfect. If you are not using Pinterest for work, go and get the Pinterest account. Get the Pinterest. Why? Let's talk about your aspirational networks. Pinterest is the world's greatest aspirational network. Why? My perfect house is on Pinterest. Not where I live. My amazing vacations. Not where I live. The outfits I wear on Pinterest. I don't own that stuff. So what are people now adding? So Pinterest is a visual representation of your aspirational life. Nobody pins the ugliest thing. Nobody pins trash by apparels on Pinterest, right? So what you want to do on Pinterest is you want to make that, because what's happening is people are now adding a smart board. My perfect house, my perfect family, my perfect life. I'm smart. And more people are pinning articles. In fact, so many people pinned articles last year in Pinterest that Pinterest actually created a pin just for news articles. Just for coverage. That's how many people were clicking and submitting and then clicking on editorial coverage. If you're not putting your editorial coverage in Pinterest, you're losing that audience. Pinterest advertising in the women's space, and yes, I realize it's a highly targeted, highly charged statement, 85% inbound traffic. Even if you only got 5% inbound traffic, you realize that that's still 4.5% more higher inbound traffic than your Twitter account is sending you. If you want inbound traffic, if you want people to come to your site, if you want people to know who you are, do not neglect Pinterest. It's an amazing thing. Also, Pinterest is a great search engine for PR people. If you are looking for example, we talked about asset audits for content, If you need a document and a way to like organize all that, you can download it off Pinterest. You need an editorial calendar for your blog, download it from Pinterest. Any type of organizational thing you need for work to do your job, you can get it on Pinterest. But don't forget, Pinterest has a very high click-through rate. It's all about the inbound traffic. So every asset you have, every article you receive, every blog post you publish, you need to be pinning it in there. The other great thing about Pinterest and Facebook that I love, both utilize a tool called Last Actor. And what that, if you ever log into Facebook and you're like, why am I seeing that story again? That was like 3 months ago. Then you look at the top and so commented on this. That's called Last Actor. What it means is any piece of old content, if somebody comments on it, Facebook and Pinterest will take that piece of content and put it back on the front of everybody's pages. Did you know that? So if you have a really good piece of Facebook content that went pretty far, you could have a coworker go in and comment on it, and it'll pull that piece back up to the front for everybody. You can do the same thing with Pinterest. You can literally every day have a coworker, not that you want to do this, but you could. You could have a coworker go into Pinterest on a weekly basis, a different coworker, and make your pinned content, and it will go to the front page of search. This is really good to do when you have an industry incident that's related to something you've already published, right? So you wrote an article about fires, fire safety, and there's a big fire in downtown Los Angeles. You could go in and repin your article on fire safety, and it will go back to the top of Pinterest. Very cool, totally free. Both Last Actor is free on all services. So it's a really great way to get your content promoted. Okay, and then I already talked about the YouTube searches, and obviously you can't have Instagram or Snapchat if you don't have imagery. Okay, so now we're into fun stuff, and then I'm going to talk a little bit faster. Right now I'll talk like this. Media had changed. Nothing on this slide is going to surprise anybody in this room, right? We've now got a 2-hour news cycle, thanks to Twitter. Things break and literally are out on the news channels with sources. Less than 24 hours is what it used to be, now it's 2 hours. But you also have fewer paid reporters. Most reporters are paid by the piece, and you would be stunned at how little they get paid. $50, $200. 200 is still the highest I've ever heard of a reporter being paid for a single piece. So what do reporters get actually judged on when they write your coverage? You find a freelancer who's going to write a coverage for you, he's going to place it in forms. What can you do to help? The #1 metric that reporters are held to when it comes to stories is story views. The #1 thing PR people must do, you have to do this, is you have to promote every piece of editorial coverage you get. For many reasons. 1, editorial coverage converts. 2, when it's shared by a third party, it converts even higher. And 3, when you share editorial coverage out on your social channels, you're driving relevant, highly targeted, highly interested people back to that article. Nobody follows your social channels unless they want to hear and see news about you. And these media outlets is a perfect fit for the readership of these articles. So every time you get a piece of coverage, you should share it out about 15 times. You should be writing 15 different tweets, different headlines, and anywhere from the next 5 weeks, or 5 days, 5 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week, whatever your cycle is, you should be sharing that out. Does it work? Yes. Yes.
Speaking of pitching and how there's more freelancers, should we be focusing more on pitching editors or freelancers or writers or?
It all depends on your audience. Yes, the answer is yes. You should pitch all of them, but it depends on, we can talk after about your specific audience. Because what you want to do here, and I'm going to tell you a quick case study, so I'm not going to surprise you when I tell you this. Nobody writes about Business Wire. Nobody. I couldn't get coverage if I fell down right now. Well, maybe Scott would write about it, but please don't. But I couldn't get coverage, right? So Business Wire, and I'm in the marketing department. My job is securing coverage. My job is what your job is, right? So last year, knowing nobody would write about us, we created an op-ed program, and we've placed over 75 op-eds this year. It's a lot of op-eds to place in 4 publications. It's a lot, right? Why did they allow me to put so much of my own written content in their publications? Because I do this. Every single time I get a piece of coverage, I would utilize the Business Wire channels, and I would promote the daylights out of the coverage. And you know what happens? I'll get emails that say, your content was the top ranked content on our site. Your content is now included on our weekly wrap-up of top content of the week. Oh, guess what? Your content is now included in our monthly wrap-up of top content of the month. Oh, you got 3 of the top 10 articles, most read articles for the year. So what did that mean? That's additional coverage. Every single time they do that. The only thing I did, I mean, don't get me wrong, these articles are awesome. They're great. But let's be honest, what did I do? I drove the traffic in. I drove the traffic in. All of these additional placements that I am receiving on my one piece of content, I'm getting because I drove traffic in.
So are you guys evolving your product so that it's easier to add multimedia or pictures or images, things of that nature? I mean, is the way that press releases are being put together by the brands and the PR firms going to change, and that you guys are kind of driving that change? Or
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, even going past multimedia, we've been working with AP, we've been distributing photos into AP's photo system since the 90s. I mean, we have been working to try to get companies to use photographs for years, but it's actually moving past photos, which you're going to start to see in 2015. And we have a couple of products that do this, and it's not meant to, is you're going to start to see interactive photos. Photos that have hyper spots on them, that when you hover your mouse over the photo, more content comes up. That's actually going to be the newest way of multimedia, because not only does it allow a company or a brand to share even more content, it's completely designed for kinetic learners. People who can't control, they have to learn by touching and by interacting, and then it keeps people time on site for the reporter. So you're starting to see media outlets create interactive videos because they're trying to generate time on site to get more advertising revenues. But yeah, photo services have been around for a really long time. Media outlets are the systems are getting better at accepting imagery, but what you're starting to see, even with radio, if you're pitching a radio station, never send a pitch without offering multimedia. Because every publication you have now has an online component, and they all need multimedia. The last thing I'll say is that we see a lot of companies who are like, well, I don't want to pay the multimedia, I'm not going to include multimedia. And what's great is we're seeing their competitors' imagery included in their articles. That's another thing you can do. If you have beautiful imagery from your industry, email your industry reporters and let them know that you have that available if they ever need it to round out a story. And then the last thing to do is make sure you have all of this stuff in your online newsroom on your website. Because what's happening is that you'll pitch a reporter, they won't just email you back and say, send it to me. They immediately go to your website and they go into your corporate newsroom to get more information. And if you have the images there, you can speed up that process. That's a little bit off what I was going to say, but I do want to remind you that multimedia, the problem reporters have, and media outlets have, is they need money, right? That's why people have paywalls, that's why they're all playing with these different things. The one way they're making money right now is through advertising, and it's all about time on site. The longer you're on that page, the more ads they can display, the more money they make. So reporters want, and media outlets desperately need that. But for PR people, the takeaway here, share more coverage. Remember, the more often you share it, the more likely someone is to retweet it. That's word of mouth. That's conversion. To do this, if you have questions on how to do this, one of the things that we do, every time we place an op-ed, we'll go to our intranet and we'll actually post pre-written tweets and social messaging so people in the company can share it out. So if you're looking at ways to create advocacy within your business, that's an easy way to do it. Okay, quickly, just as a reminder, PR people, one thing that drives me crazy is PR people never count everything they do. Traditionally, when you go in and you say to a PR person, what was the result of this pitch? It was X pieces of coverage. That is not nearly enough. Every press release is an action document. So when you're counting up the success of your campaign, you've got to be counting your articles, as well as your tweets, your retweets, your mentions, the number of comments, the number of times you shared it out so many times that they re-put your article in a future newsletter, blogs, shares, inbound traffic. Figure out what your daily inbound traffic is. If it's 100 visitors a day, then whatever increase you have on the day you issue a press release, you get credit for. All of your channel subscriptions that come the day you issue a press release, you should take credit for. Your press release is generating that action, causing all of these things. But PR people still tend to just count articles. And what happens is then you don't get raises. When you start looking at a much bigger impact and you start looking at all the things you're actually generating, it gets you more money. It's all about the money. If you haven't seen this, it's just quickly an overview of where we are as far as media outlets. Traditional media stories, photo, article, and then that little box that says company name, when it was founded, where they're located. That's being replaced with a more storytelling type of presentation, where you want video and photo essays, so multiple pieces of content. If you think you just have one photo for your story, they will find additional photos elsewhere, so present them all. And then think about creating, if you have a boilerplate on your press release, make a video of that. Make a video of that. Make it about the company video and offer that to media outlets. Keep it about 30 seconds. But what a great way to get your story in there. Remember, video's going to be hot because it's time on site. I can read an article in 10 seconds. But if there's a 30-second video on that site, I stay on there. I've now been on the site 3 times longer. And they make money. And they like me. And then they like you. By the way, remember how I was telling you to share the coverage out? Here's what happens if you don't share the coverage out. At the end of the month, when the reporter sits down with the media outlet, and they're looking to see which story got the most views, and your story's not one of them, they will not write about you again. Why bother? You didn't generate any traffic. You didn't meet any of their needs. Why would they write about you again? Or you're the #1 story as far as inbound traffic, and they choose to write about you again. So if you don't want media coverage, if you don't want repeat coverage, don't share the story. If you want repeat coverage, be the person that drives in the most traffic. And the New York Times, by the way, has a great piece on this about USA Today. They have a leaderboard in their newsroom of all the number of hits every story gets, updating in real time. Talk about competition. Okay, so very quickly, I'm going to show you guys some tips. But just as a reminder, what press releases are, these are your action documents. These are the documents that are going to jumpstart your entire program, right? They're launching your campaign. But they are not standalone sales tools. They don't replace customer service. They can no longer be text only. If you want real impact, you've got to include visuals. And then, of course, we always say they don't work without support. So you can take that to your boss and say, see, I'm support. I need a raise. Okay, so now here's some tips. These are really interesting. How many of you guys use subheads? Very interesting thing about subheads. Nobody sees a subhead until they open a press release. What do they see? They see the headline, and they see about the first 10 words of the first sentence of your press release. That first sentence of your press release has got to be awesome. Remember how back in the day, this is a very traditional one, this one is not awesome. Back in the day, it would be company name, ticker symbol, today announces XYZ. Move that to your second sentence. Make your first sentence what you would have put in your subhead. Make your first, because whether it's in the reporter system, whether it's an AP database, whether it's on the Business Wire system, or Google, that's Google search result, they're not going to show your subhead. They're going to show the first sentence of your press release. And that first sentence, that's all people see. And that's all the real estate you get to get somebody to open your news. That's it. Make it rock. Okay. How many of you guys have heard of click to tweet? Okay. The joke I have is that literally click to tweet was a human, he would be my boyfriend. And if any of you guys use him, I'd be very mad. Because it's the greatest service I've ever seen. I wish we owned it. I really do. Click to tweet, clicktotweet.com, totally free service. You log in through Twitter, and what it does is it brings up a box. And that allows you to write your own tweet about your press release. Because your press release headline is rarely your social media headline. What do we know about social media? What do we know about tweets? People want to look smart. So regardless of what your press release headline is, Make your Twitter headline something actionable. Use stats. Add in your own hashtag. Instead of driving people back to the Business Wire copy of your press release, put a link in that drives people back to your website. Sorry, guys. Very popular this morning. This is going to change everything. Why? Because nobody opens your press release unless they care. Right? I mean, how many times have you just sat down and just clicked on press releases for fun? Even we don't do that, right? So once they've opened it, you've got a brand thing. Activate them. Give them something to do. This is, I would say, probably 30 to 40% of all the press releases Business Wire distributes now includes click tweets. You'll see people like MasterCard, they'll actually put their call to action in the subhead. I believe you really should give people a little bit more information and then simply ask them to tweet. Click to tweets can also be used for blog posts, not just a press release thing. Remember, what you're trying to do is get somebody else to share your coverage. You're trying to get somebody else to share your news. Because once a third party shares it, it gets a stamp of approval and it's got higher trust. So including things like a click to tweet allows you to generate action. Plus again, you get, like I said, you can put in your own hashtags, you can put links back to your site. If you're doing bullets with a lot of statistics or an infographic with stats, put a tweet this at the end of each one of those bullets. You can have as many of these in your release as you like. Don't go crazy, but it's a really good way to jumpstart advocacy on your behalf, and it's free. For now. I love them. Okay, this is very cool. Let me show you something real quick. Again, analog devices. Right here, order samples and download a data sheet. Get questions answered by engineers in our engineer zone. And then check this out. Subscribe to our newsfeed, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our technical journal. In one press release, 5 calls to action to join better marketing channels.
How long is that press release?
It's about 400 words. It's that, yeah, I think there's a little bit of pricing, maybe slightly more. But what they realized is, nobody opens their press release unless they're a brand fan, and they know the press release may not convert somebody completely into the marketing funnel. So what they did is they took their best converting channels, because they have a YouTube channel, they have Facebook, notice it's not in here. They took their best converting channels, and instead of hyperlinking in the boilerplate, they gave them standalone calls to action. If you have marketing channels that you know converts people, put them in your press releases. Drive people there. You've got this space, and again, only brand fans open your release. So it's a great way to really hit your target audience. Then, when these people sign up, they're also, and by the way, if anybody comes into your website through a press release, does anybody in here use URL builders or any type of Google Analytics or analytics tracking that allows you to see what happens when somebody clicks a link in a press release and goes into your site? It's totally free to do. When you do that, what you'll start to see is you're going to start to see the activity that you get for inbound from press releases. What you have to remember with press releases is that it's quality, not quantity, versus ads, which is going to be quantity, not quality. Anybody who comes into your site from a press release is much further in your marketing funnel than somebody who came in from an ad. That's why they're more valuable. But you can even, so what this does is it's really just trying to help people get into your marketing funnels faster. So, this is my favorite case study, it's super short. How many of you guys are familiar with Mophie? Okay, right, they're battery packs.
They're amazing.
Huh?
They're amazing. I can't survive without them.
But if you think about it, right? How old, I mean, how new, how exciting, how many is a battery pack for a cell phone? Right? Cell phones have been around for 20 years, but they are amazing. But they've been around for 20 years. It's not the greatest thing in the world, right? Except I love Mophie and I love Kevin and they're great. So how did this one press release at CES, when we have self-driving cars and we have Next, how did this one image get 25,000 views? You want to know how? The secret? They were one of 4% of our client base. We're the official wire for CES. which we handle all the press releases we run in our newsroom, one of 4% that added a photograph to their press release. If you are going to a trade show, if you are paying money for any type of marketing program, if you're paying money to write a white paper, if you're paying money to go to a trade show, you've got to include a photograph with your press release. You know who didn't? Self-driving car, Nest. This was one of the most written about products from last year's CES. It's a battery pack for a phone. We're not reinventing the world here. Why was it so good? Because reporters do not have time. They do not want to fight you and track you down and look for imagery. Provided, in fact, all of our photos go into the AP system. They have 4,000 media subscribers. Almost all of them will not pick up a story at all that doesn't have a photograph. If you're looking to create impact, you've got to start including imagery. There's just no way around it. And then lastly, when your release crosses the wire, you've got to know what to do with it. How many of you guys, oh yes?
Just on the multi, was that a news release with a photo, or was it just a photo caption?
It was a news release with a photo. That's a great question. And actually we did like multiple releases. This one just caught everybody's eye. But this alone, so we even called them. I called them, I was like, dude, what did you do? This is amazing. Because I thought maybe the PR firm was utilizing the Business Wire version of the release and driving traffic there. It was really the only thing I could think of. He said, no. He said, we're using our website version. We're not using your site version.
Do infographics have the same kind of impact?
Infographics are great. People love infographics. And when you send out your infographic, if you, in the body of your email, utilize bullet points and then click to tweet to get people to tweet out the stats, people go bananas. And then the new thing is you create the infographic, you create the textual component of that, right, that talks about it, and then create a video of the infographic. That's the new black. Again, my textual head explodes every time somebody tells me I have to create a video. But here's the thing, how many of you guys are actually utilizing data when you issue a press release to help you decide and craft the next release? I mean, everybody's talking about it, right? But it's kind of hard to do. So I'm going to show you a couple of things really quickly. These are just free reports that you get with Business Wire. And one of them just shows you the action on your press release. That's great. The other thing it'll do is it shows you all the links in your release and which ones get the most clicks. That's going to help you determine next time which hyperlinks you want to include in your press release. Right? If you include a link to Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and people only click the Facebook link, make that a standalone line, right? Drive more action there. So that's one thing you can do. Is you want to look at the link clicks that you get, determine which links have the most impact, and then make those standalone sentences in your next release. But you can also look at the social impact of your release. This is something that you also get with Business Wire, or if you have a social monitoring platform, you can see this. And there's a couple things you can do. Obviously, you can look at tone, you can look at reaction, but I'm going to show you my favorite tips. One is you can look at all of the influencers that tweeted out your release. What a great Follow Friday. If you're on Twitter, you know Follow Fridays where you give everybody a shout out. Why not give a shout out to all the people who wrote or who tweeted your news? It's a great way to compliment them without getting too pushy, if you will. You can also thank them. But this is a great way to identify. It also will tell you by title, by rank, by their influence online, who's talking about you. So you can also create influencer programming directly from this information. Because sometimes people will tweet about you, but they want you to not write about you, and then you just offer to send them pre-written tweets next time, so they don't have to do all that messy work. And then you've got somebody tweeting for you. Okay, this is my favorite though. Check this out. How many of you guys are getting geographic resonance when you're looking at press releases or looking at the results of your releases? This is amazing. What this little chart will do, it's actually going to show you by color which cities, which states, which countries in the world where your release is resonating. So have you ever tried to pitch AM radio or morning TV, and they say, well, we got to know that it's relevant to our audience. Well, you know what? You're in Texas. We already know that this news is relevant because people in Texas are talking about it. They're talking about it so much it's showing up dark on our map. So your roadmap from here, when you see this slide, here's what you can do with this slide. 1, pitch morning radio and pitch morning TV in that market. When they go to search to see if people are talking about it, they're going to see conversations. 2, customize your advertising. Go do some LinkedIn advertising just to the state of Texas. 20 touches to make a sale. These touches are going on right now. 3rd, go to your sales force and tell your sales force to start calling people in Texas. You have conversations happening. What this does is it tells you where they're happening, where you're getting your geographic resonance, and then it gives you an opportunity to build on it and make some money. When you're able to put these, give data like this back to other people within your company, you start becoming much more aligned with their sales funnel. And what you're doing is giving them stuff that they could never get this information anywhere else. It's coming from the PR team. Yay. And then this is my favorite. You can't see it, I know. But this is trending URLs. It's all the URLs that were tweeted out about your news. So you have a boss that says you have to be in the Wall Street Journal, all they care about is the Wall Street Journal. You could go here and say, we got the Wall Street Journal, but we also got these trade publications, and these trade publications were a lot more socially active. So we're going to actually put these trade publications as more important to us than the Wall Street Journal, or the other way around. But what it does is it actually tells you which publications can be more viral and give you a stronger online presence. You can also do this with a free site called Tweet Reach, where you can put in a URL of a story, and it will tell you if it's been shared out on Twitter, and how often. Tweet Reach is limited by time, so don't go in and put a story in from January, but you can go in, in the last month or so. It's free and it's awesome. And that, my friends, that's this entire presentation. We're done. So really, you just got to remember everyone's sharing these. Really think about your audience. You want to make sure you're thinking multimedia. Again, it's really hard for me to do. You saw my deck. But you have to start thinking visuals. Also think targeted. Remember that people want to share your news. If they've opened your press release, they are already saying, I care. Give them action to do. Make those press releases more actionable. Use URL builders to help you understand the impact the release will have within your site, or the inbound traffic has on your actual website. Use those measurement reports. Really look at that geolocation report. It's really amazing to see what you can do from that. And it's really not expensive and very easy to do follow-up based on that. And then don't forget to identify your influencers and figure out, like, do follow Fridays or send them pre-written text messaging, not text, tweet messaging. What you'll find is if you can activate those followers, you can get that word of mouth, and then your PR is even better. And lastly, do not forget to share out your coverage. If I can give you any piece of takeaway besides Google profiles, is share out your coverage. And that's it. Now, really am done.